Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead or Leaving Egypt, depending on which video platform you like to watch your content on. My name is Justin, and in today's video, we're going to try to turn an Ozarkian jungle into a garden spot. We're going to do the best that we can to do that. We'll talk about how our plans fell apart trying to get the garden together, but how you have to be resilient and just continue to try to move towards getting things done the best that you can, but also recognizing when the Lord's trying to stop you. You got to do that as well. And we're going to try to get our children involved. Why? Because we want them to learn how to grow their own food because of all of the mRNA-laced food that is sure to come. In fact, I just spoke to a lady not too long ago about purchasing some of her animals, and she is a vet that moved here recently to Missouri, and we were just talking about things and the way the world is, and we were talking about gardening and wanting to grow our own food, and that was one of the things she brought up. Now, mind you, this is not some hillbilly tinfoil hat wearing individual like you might think that I am. This is a well-educated lady who was talking about wanting to grow her own food because of some of the junk they put in the food, including, and she specifically mentioned, the mRNA technology being infused into the food system via vegetables and things like that, meat and dairy and all of those things. And we want our children to be as involved as we can get them today. It's kind of hot and really sunny. I don't know how much they're going to get involved, but as involved as we can. Why? Because they need to learn to grow their own food. They need to not be able to be controlled by the supermarkets and by the Walmarts and all of those places. Don't want them going to most of those places anyway, because places like Target with their Satanist worship and their pride clothing for children, we don't want to support them with our dollars if we can keep from it. Kind of like, you know, Tractor Supply supporting the parade, and the parade being the type of parade where there were males dressed as women who were shaking all that they had in front of children, like those kinds of things. We don't want our children to feel like they have to spend money there because they don't have a choice, right? We want them to learn how to be as independent as possible and trusting in the Lord and not operating in this world's system. So if all that sounds interesting to you, stick along.
I once was lost, oh, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
So here is our Ozarkian jungle. This was the garden spot last year. The weeds are tall, but not as thick as they might appear on the video. But we have to get them mowed down, get rid of that, and get this dirt turned up into something usable for a garden. Just to give you a point of reference, I'm a little over 6 foot tall, and this weed is taller than I am. So what was our plan? Well, plan A was to get on the 1952 Harry Ferguson tractor, hook up the brush hog the weeds down, hook up the disc, and start disking. Usually, the disc works fine for putting in the garden, but it usually takes me a couple of days of disking, right? You disc it, everything's a little bit damp, you disc it again, really powders it up and makes it work really good for planting vegetables. The problem is, my 1952 Harry Ferguson old trusty rusty tractor won't start. So here she is in all her glory, and we'll show you kind of what she does. She'll try, but she just won't fire. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. Yesterday we went through all the easy stuff, and so the really easy stuff anyway. I will have to spend some time tinkering on this tractor. The problem is I don't have a lot of time. I need to get the garden in. Those of you that follow our channel know that we have been extremely busy. That's why we haven't had a whole lot of videos lately. Different health issues with our family and those kinds of things, and you want to be there for them, and that's way more important than a garden anyway. But now we're to the point where we have to get this garden in. We've got plants in cups and things that need to go in. They are looking rough. Those kinds of things. So then what do you do, right? Can't get the tractor to start. What little bit of quick fixes I know to do would not get it to start. And so, turn that off before the battery does. And so, what will you do now? Well, do you go buy a tractor? Well, I mean, my wife has been after me about getting a tractor that can do more for us, right? Meaning one with like a front loader and hydraulics and those kinds of things. And quite honestly, if we're going to buy a tractor, that's what we need to do, because as we are doing more and more. When I bought this tractor 12 years ago, or however long ago it was, I was a single man. I had 30 acres and I just needed a tractor to brush hog it down and to disc in food plots for my deer. And this worked perfect for that. And then we used it for our gardens. As me and my wife got married, I used it for our gardens and stuff. It works great for that. But if I'm gonna buy a different tractor, rather than spending the money twice, right, I would rather go ahead and just buy what it is we're going to need in the future. The problem is they're really expensive. And so that's not really an option, especially with trying to save up money for our own piece of land one of these days. For those of you that don't follow our channel, we live on my in-laws' land right now. We sold our other house that we lived in. We finished a tiny home. We live in about a 700 square foot tiny home. My wife, my 3 children, and our 4th one on the way, right? And so, and we'd like to buy our own piece of land one of these days, and trying to save up to do that, there's just not really a way to get a new tractor. So that's not an option, right? So now what do you do now? Well, I used to have a tiller, but I didn't have one anymore. And so my thought process was, let's buy a tiller. And I will use the lawnmower on the garden. I'll set the deck at the highest setting. I'll mow it down. I'll lower the deck if I need to, mow it down again. And then we will use the tiller on it and till up the ground. So I got to looking online at tillers. I'm like, well, new ones are really, really high. I don't really want to spend that kind of money on a tiller if I don't have to. And so I got to looking on the old marketplace, and I found one pretty close to home that was reasonably priced, I thought. It looks like it's been really well taken care of. We're gonna find out today how well it has been taken care of. It is gonna get put through its paces today. So, we are going to mow it down. We've let it all dry out from the morning dew. I'm gonna mow it down, we'll till it up, and we'll try to get the garden, as much of it as we can, in. I don't have any delusions of getting the whole thing in today, but at least try to get those plants, the tomatoes and the peppers, out of the cups and in the dirt. That's kind of the goal for the day. If we get anything else done, that'll just be bonus. But we're at least gonna try to get that done today. Looks like we're not gonna have any rain the first part of next week, so maybe I can get the other seeds in the ground the first part of next week. Time to get to work. We got the Ozarkian jungle pretty knocked down. So now we'll bring the tiller in and see if we can't turn some dirt. All right, so now we've got pregnant mama planting some seeds.
I'm running in the dirt.
You're running in the dirt. Yeah. And Luella's running in the dirt. Barefoot in the dirt garden. Good times, huh?
Yeah.
It's a big difference from the Ozarkian jungle I told you guys we had earlier. There's the tiller we bought yesterday. New to us, bought it used. They told me it was about 12 years old, 11 years old, something like that. And I'll be honest with you, it's a pull-on or pull-in, or however you're supposed to say it, pull-in pro. But this thing is not playing around. It just gets right down and chews the dirt. It's geared nice where the tires don't try to outrun the tiller tines as they're working. If you hit a little rock or something, it jumps, but it doesn't try to run away from you, which makes it really nice. I've used some other tillers in the past, some Craftsmans and Troy-Bilts, that try to run away from you pretty bad. But that one seems to be working really well. We still got a lot of work to do, but we're trying to multitask a little bit while Bubby's sleeping. Girls are running in the dirt, and Melissa is trying to help plant seeds. I'll explain these rows later in the video. As we got the Ozarkian jungle tamed, and we are watering the tomato and pepper plants that we got planted. We got those in. That was priority number one. Get the tomatoes and the peppers in because they were big enough. They were struggling in the little cups they were in, and we needed to get them into the ground. And we also got a couple rows of green beans and a few other things in. We still got some to do next week, but at least it's a start, and it looks a whole lot better than it did starting out. Also got the smoker going on some dinner for the evening. So we got that pretty well knocked out. The kids had a blast playing in the dirt, running back and forth in the between the rows, and I wanted to explain why we have those humps in those rows. First of all, it's a low spot down there. It does flood if we do get rain from time to time. It can flood down there, and it will drown your plants out if you get too much water on them. And so we raise them up. Also, that hump will develop a crust on the top, but the bottom layer of dirt will stay soft. Give a good place for the roots to grow and all of those things. Also, having kids, it is a good spot for the kids as a marker. Like, I can walk on the low spot, I need to stay off of the higher spot, right? We've been doing this the last few years. It's a lot more work, I will admit that, but we like it. And now that we have good old trusty tiller, we made our rows about tiller width apart, a little bit wider, not much, but a little bit wider, so that I can weed those rows, throw the weeds in the middle, and then come down through there with the tiller and clean it up. So that makes it nice as well. Also told you guys that we talk about some other ways the Lord has really blessed us in the last few days. Of course, you guys know about Wilma, and you know how some church family, they said it was laid on their heart to buy us a milk cow, right? And what a blessing that is. And they bought her and give her to us, and she's been a phenomenal little milk cow so far. Just as gentle as you can ask for and all of those things, right? Been really good. And then we had the vet come out to check the mastitis issues that she's had, and he gave us a pretty good report, and she's getting better. Also, what you may not know is we use a mini split system to heat and cool our house. Well, we use wood to heat it primarily, but we use it to cool our house in the summertime. And last winter, the neighbor's cows got out and got up against my line set, and somehow or another worked my fitting loose. And so happened in the middle of the night. Woke up in that next morning to a bunch of about 30 head of cattle around our house, and that line set leaking. And so I tightened it up and got a hold of a friend of mine that does HVAC, and asked him, said, hey, you know, would you come and recharge our system for us? And he said that he would. I said, hey, let me know, you know, what it'd cost or whatever. We'll make sure we'll have the cash on hand. He come by the other day, and I'm not gonna say his name, but he come by the other day and charged our unit for us, and refused to take any payment. And so I don't want you to lose sight. And I tell you this because I want you to understand how faithful the Lord is, how he takes care of his children, how he watches over us, and what a blessing those things are, and how that you may bless others whenever you get an opportunity, and what it might do for them in their life, because you never know sometimes what people are going through. And sometimes a blessing like that can go a long ways. Even if, you know, you do a little something for them and you just charge them for material and you don't charge them the labor or whatever, man, that stuff goes a long ways to helping people out. And I also don't want you to forget through this walk of life, I don't want you to forget to thank the Lord for the things that he does. Sometimes something like that, right? It's just like, well, it's, you know, a friend of ours, and he was being nice and whatever, right? And you don't really stop and thank the Lord for those things. Sometimes I believe, so I'm not a prosperity guy. I'm not a prosperity preacher guy, right? That's not my thing. I think that it has done more damage to people's walk here in the United States than I can muster, frankly. However, I do believe the Lord will take care of his children. And sometimes I think that means you're okay with eating the bologna that doesn't even have a first name, the Great Value brand or the whatever, right? The Bar S or whatever is the cheapest. Like, you're okay with that and you're content. And other times it's, you know, somebody calls you up and says they felt led to buy you a milk cow, or charge up your AC unit, or somebody just out of nowhere gives you a, you know, a $20 bill or whatever along the way, or your tires don't blow out, or something holds it together and you finally address it and you realize, like, this should not still be holding together. I don't know how this is working, right? Those types of things, sorry, I was enjoying the shade and probably got the lighting all off, but those types of things can really go a long ways to blessing you if you'll take time to consider them and to thank the Lord for the blessings he's provided. Appreciate you guys watching. Teach your children how to plant gardens. Teach your children about the Lord first and foremost, and then teach them how to plant gardens. Teach them how to butcher animals. Teach them how to identify food that grows naturally and wildly around you. Help them be independent. Help them not be dependent on the system. Help them to learn to live outside of the bounds of society. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you next time.